Have you ever had that 2:30 a.m. realization that if everything fell apart tomorrow, the list of people you could actually call is much shorter than you thought? It's a terrifying thought. We're taught from birth to build our lives around others, to be the good child, the reliable employee, the selfless partner. But there is a cold truth that no one wants to admit. As we age, the circles of support we spent decades building naturally start to thin. Friends move, careers end. Even the people who love you most get swallowed up by their own lives. If your entire sense of security is tied to someone else's presence, you aren't living, you're waiting. This video isn't about being a loner. It's about becoming sovereign. It's about building a life so internally fortified that no matter who stays or who goes, you remain unshaken. Today, we are looking at the 5 internal pillars of a life that never feels like a burden. First pillar, the cognitive sovereignty. Your mind is the only thing you truly own, yet it is the first thing most men lease out to the world through the slow decay of mental laziness. We often obsess over physical decline, the creaking knees or the slowing metabolism. But the most devastating erosion happens in silence. It starts the moment you decide you know enough. When a man stops being a student of life, his world begins to shrink. He stops questioning, he stops reading, and he begins to live on a loop, repeating the same 5 stories from his glory days while the modern world passes him by. The refusal to shrink. Cognitive sovereignty is the radical refusal to let your world get smaller. It is the realization that your brain is a biological muscle that demands constant resistance to maintain its tone. Most people retire mentally decades before they retire professionally. They become passengers in their own lives, letting algorithms, headlines, and other people's opinions dictate their reality. When curiosity dies, you lose your edge. You cease to be a leader and start becoming a dependent, someone who requires the world to be explained to them, because they can no longer decipher it for themselves. The strategy, intellectual resistance. To maintain your cognitive throne, you must treat learning as a survival skill. The strategy is simple. Learn one thing every day that has absolutely nothing to do with your past or your current profession. If you are a technician, study philosophy. If you are a writer, study the mechanics of a combustion engine. This cross-training of the brain forces new neural pathways to form, preventing the mental stagnation that leads to irrelevance. You must stay engaged with the new, not out of a desperate need to stay trendy, but because a sharp mind is your greatest defense against the fog of age and manipulation. Use your mind with intention today, or you will eventually find yourself forced to rely on the clarity of someone else's. Sovereignty begins with the thoughts you choose to cultivate. Second pillar, functional independence. True strength isn't found in the mirror. It is found in the freedom to move through the world without asking for permission or a helping hand. Most men treat fitness as a vanity project, a way to fill out a shirt or chase a younger version of themselves. But as the years stack up, aesthetics become secondary to a far more brutal reality, utility. The gym is no longer about the size of your biceps. It is about the maintenance of your autonomy. It is the difference between being a participant in your life or a spectator watching it from a recliner. The utility of the body. Functional independence is the ability to do the mundane things that we take for granted until they are gone. It is the power to carry your own heavy groceries, the agility to get up off the floor without grabbing a handle, and the stamina to walk a mile on a whim without a second thought. When you lose these abilities, you lose your sovereignty. You become a person who has to check with their body before saying yes to an adventure. Real fitness is the insurance policy you pay into every day, so that you never have to face the humiliation of being physically incapable in your own home. The contract with your future self. Every time you choose to move, every time you lift something heavy or push through a walk, you are signing a contract with your future self. That contract says, I will not be a prisoner in my own body. It is the ultimate form of self-respect. You are deciding today that the you of 10 or 20 years from now will still be able to play with his grandkids, travel the world and stand on his own 2 feet. Action step: if you're finding this perspective helpful so far, and you're ready to prioritize utility over vanity, comment number 1 below. It lets me know you're committed to your own independence and ready to build a body that serves you, rather than one you have to serve. Third pillar, the minimalist ledger. Complexity is a cage, and every unmanaged mess in your life is a bar you've helped weld into place. Most people believe that having it all is the ultimate goal, but they fail to realize that the more you own, the more those things own you. Chaos is a magnet for dependency. It creates a vacuum that sucks in consultants, managers, and helpers to fix the leaks you've ignored. The moment you become too overwhelmed to handle your own affairs, you have effectively handed over the keys to your freedom. The manager trap. The minimalist ledger is the recognition that order is the foundation of sovereignty. If your finances are a mystery, your home is a graveyard of unused junk, and your digital life is a tangled mess of notifications and subscriptions, you are vulnerable. Chaos forces you to seek out a manager, whether that's a literal person or a system you rely on because you can no longer navigate your own life. When you need someone else to explain your bank statement to you or help you find your own documents, you are no longer in the driver's seat. You have become a client in your own life. Clarity over wealth. Financial simplicity isn't about how many zeros are in your account. It's about clarity. It is the discipline of knowing exactly what comes in and what goes out, so that surprises don't turn into crises. A crisis is often just a surprise that you didn't have the margin to handle. When your ledger is clean and your life is uncluttered, you possess a quiet, lethal efficiency. You can move faster, decide quicker, and navigate the world alone if you have to. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication because it removes the friction between you and your goals. By keeping your ledger minimal, you ensure that your energy is spent on building your future, not managing the wreckage of your past. Fourth pillar, radical emotional responsibility. If your peace of mind depends on the mood of another person, you aren't in a relationship. You are a hostage to their emotions. We often spend our lives handing out remote controls to our internal state, letting partners, friends, and even strangers decide whether we feel good or bad today. We've been conditioned to use our loved ones as emotional regulators, turning to them to soothe our anxieties or mirror our joys. But a sovereign man knows that outsourcing your emotional stability is the fastest way to lose your center. The internal weather station. Radical emotional responsibility is the sobering realization that you are the sole architect of your internal weather. True sovereignty means taking 100% ownership of how you feel, regardless of the chaos happening outside your door. If they don't call, your worth doesn't drop. If they are angry, your pulse doesn't have to skyrocket in sympathy. When you stop requiring others to fix your mood, you break the chains of emotional dependency. You transition from a needy participant to a grounded observer. The room alone litmus test. The ultimate test of emotional resilience is simple. Can you sit in a room alone and not feel like you're in bad company? Most people flee into the arms of others, or the distractions of a screen, because they cannot stand the silence of their own thoughts. They need constant validation to prove they still exist. But when you master the art of processing your own grief and celebrating your own wins, you become dangerous. You are no longer looking for a missing piece to complete you. When you don't need others to validate your existence, their presence in your life transforms. They stop being a requirement for your survival and start being a gift for your enjoyment. You move from a position of, I need you to make me okay, to, I am okay, and I choose to share my okayness with you. That is the only foundation upon which a truly free man can build a legacy. Fifth pillar, the private code. A man who only behaves well because he is being watched is not a man of character. He is a man of convenience. Most of us spend our lives performing for an audience, guided by the invisible hand of social pressure and the fear of judgment. But as you move through life and the spotlights of society begin to fade, as you retire, as your children grow, as your social circle shifts, you are left with a terrifying void. Without the policing of the crowd, Who do you become? True sovereignty requires the construction of a private code, a moral architecture that stands firm even when the world is looking the other way. The internal compass. The private code is the refusal to let your ethics be a democracy. It is a set of 3 to 5 non-negotiable values that define the perimeter of your soul. Whether it is integrity, vitality, or service, these aren't just words you hang on a wall. They are the laws you live by when you are entirely alone. When you have a code, you possess an internal compass. You no longer need to poll your neighbors or ask your children what the right thing to do is. You don't seek consensus for your conscience. You already know the answer because the code has already decided for you. The radiance of quiet dignity. There is a specific type of weight, a gravitas, that follows a man who lives by a private code. It creates a quiet dignity that people can sense from a mile away. It's the strength of a man who does the right thing not for the applause, but because betraying his code would be a fate worse than death. This self-governance is the ultimate form of power. It makes you immune to the whims of fashion, the lures of shortcuts, and the fickle nature of public opinion. When you answer to your own code, you are finally irrevocably free. The truth is, we are all walking each other home, but we have to be able to walk the path on our own feet. You can start building these pillars today, whether you're 30 or 80. Take a look at your life right now. Which pillar is the weakest? Is it your physical strength, your cluttered mind, or your emotional dependence? Choose one and fix it. Because the greatest gift you can give the people you love is a version of you that is whole, happy, and entirely self-sustained.